On this episode, learn what's working today in paid advertising with the founder and CEO of BlitzMetrics, Dennis Yu.
You're listening to Growth Marketing Toolbox, presented by Growth Marketer. This weekly podcast cuts through the noise to explore the best marketing tools and tactics that are working today, with insights from world-class marketers helping you get more traffic, leads, and sales. And now, here's your host, Nicholas Scalise.
Before we jump into this episode, I want to share a special project I've been working on. It's a free newsletter called Growth Marketer Weekly. Every Thursday morning, I share the most important growth marketing news, tools, and insights so you can become the smartest marketer in the room. If you're enjoying this podcast, I can tell you'll get a lot of value out of the newsletter, so why not join over 4,200 other marketers who are already subscribed? It's absolutely free, and you can sign up at growthmarketer.co or simply hit the link on the show notes page. Hello and welcome to episode 243 of Growth Marketing Toolbox. I'm your host, Nicholas Scalise, and today I'm joined by Dennis Yu. Dennis is a search engine engineer who built the analytics at Yahoo. Nowadays, he's the founder and CEO of BlitzMetrics, where he spent $1 billion of other people's money on Facebook ads while learning how to build a certification for digital marketers. He's always present on CNN, NPR, the LA Times, the Wall Street Journal, and other media outlets, and he's going to hire another 200 people this year since his goal is to create as many jobs as possible. Dennis, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. How's everything going?
Thank you, Nicholas. You know, we're here in an operating room, so you guys can see how real it is in terms of us sharing content, making content, helping people on the go. There's no excuse not to video and make ads.
Authenticity. That's awesome. You are... You practice what you preach. This is going to be a lot of fun. As I was saying right before we start recording, you're a big, just someone I really admire in the industry. I think you talk the talk, you walk the walk, and you're able to get very tactical, which I know we're going to deliver a lot of value on this episode because we'll be able to dig into specific tools and tactics. I'm sure a lot of our listeners are very familiar with your work. You're very, very well known in the industry, but for anyone who may not be familiar, anyone who's new in marketing, maybe just give us a little elevator pitch of who you are and how you got started in marketing.
Yeah, I'm a search engine engineer. I'm a data, math, Chinese, math contest kind of person. And I believe that there's systems and processes behind everything that we do. So when we are entrepreneurs, whether it's just us or a whole team, we can leverage tools and technology, but unless you have process and people to be able to amplify that, it doesn't mean anything. So we can go through today all the tools that I'm using, for example, on my phone to be able to run ads and look at data and use different kinds of apps and go across all the different social networks. But I believe more important than having people who are really smart or technology, which is really cool, is a process to bring all of that together. And I'd love nothing more, as you guys will see, just Google me, all the things that we have to share where we show step by step. We believe in recipes and checklists, just like cooks that have a special recipe, or pilots that fly an airplane, or doctors that do surgery. There needs to be accepted standards that are published that aren't secret. Just like our friend Dr. Laura here in this operating room, she's going to do a little bit of surgery on me in about an hour from now. We want to share how that's done. And we think the world of digital marketing with tools and all that has a lot of snake oil and less, here's what you do, 1, 2, 3, 4. Everything you see from me is here's how we're actually doing it, not just what I heard from someone else.
And it's changing so quickly. So, you're able to keep up on that. And so on that topic, things are changing so quickly, specifically with paid advertising. I know you have such a wide ranging background in digital marketing, but I really want to focus on paid advertising because I feel that that's the thread that sort of connects everything together. So maybe just give us a lay of the land of here we are in 2021. So much happened last year with COVID and things are changing. And now 2021, with all this focus on data privacy, what is the current state of paid advertising and where are the opportunities as you see them?
Well, you saw a year ago when COVID hit that the price of ad traffic fell by about 2/3, which is great. So it was like what the price was 4 or 5 years ago. So those of us who were investing were like, wow, this is great. Like everything's on sale. Let's spend money. And mainly it was on Google and Facebook. But then as you guys probably saw, the cost of traffic on Twitter and Snapchat and TikTok and other places started to become cheaper. And now there's more and more social networks. So there's so many different places that you can pay. So when we think about the strategy level of paid ads, it's a pay to play game because the social networks are never going to charge users $5 a month. People say, oh, Facebook Gold, $5 a month, no ads. Never going to happen. So us as marketers and advertisers know that we need to not only make great content, which is short form video, 15-second videos, these kinds of things. But then we have to use paid to be able to put it out there. So you guys may know about our $1 a day technique, which we've taught mainly on Facebook. But guess what? It works on every single other channel. Why? Because you can set up remarketing audiences. We had a call this morning with Snapchat, and there's some things that aren't released yet, but you guys probably guess what they're going to be given what you've seen everyone copying Facebook on custom audiences, on the conversion API, on the ways you set up tag management, on native lead gen ads, which are based on a form, just like Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook and these other guys have. All the other social networks and channels to be able to run ads are going to copy those exact same things. So if you're tactical, think about what are you doing in terms of your Google Tag Manager with all of your tags inside tracked properly. The change that's happening with iOS 14.5 and Google Chromium with the privacy sandbox, getting rid of third-party cookies, everything moving to first party. What does that mean for you? It means all your conversion tracking needs to be tied directly in. You need to tie your point of sale through event tracking, through GA4, not just Google Analytics Universal, and use the conversion APIs that every one of these guys is offering. Now, we can talk about all the techniques on how we adjust ads and the pricing and things like that, but if you don't have conversion tracking, it doesn't matter because bid optimization doesn't kick in. So what does that mean? I need to make sure that I'm tracking my conversions the right way. I've got to use UTM parameters. I have to use auto tagging of my Google ads and my Google Analytics. I have to make sure I have the ability to measure multi-channel so that I don't have a ton of direct none. If you look in your Google Analytics and a source medium report and you have more than 10% direct none, that's a problem, right? It's email, it's self-referral, it's multi-site, it is site-wide SSL. We see the more channels there are, and the more everything moves towards advertising as a way to get traffic instead of trying to get it all organically. I mean, SEO is still great. We can talk about that too, but everything's shifting more and more towards paid because there's more momentum on the paid channels.
More opportunity.
And then you've got to get your tracking in place. And I see most marketers are so focused on any individual tool, and there's lots of tools I'd like to tell you about. But if you don't get that tracking right, which is what we call digital plumbing, then the rest of it is just going to cascade into a fail because paid advertising is increasingly relying upon programmatic optimization that comes through bid optimization. In other words, the system is going to sub-target for you. So because of GDPR, because a lot of privacy data, remarketing audiences, and this third-party data going away, then the optimization is going to be done by Google and Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat. That means you have to send back the conversions so the system can auto-optimize for you. You don't have to create lots and lots and lots of ads like it used to be. You don't have to specify lots and lots of targeting. So anyone who's in real estate or careers or things where there's issues about where you can't target by gender or race or location or redlining, that kind of stuff, you're going to depend upon the system and your content together to do that targeting for you. And that's what I see a lot of marketers in 2021 are getting caught off guard. They don't understand that part because they're still
even before
to touching ads all the time.
Right. Yeah. And loading it up with saved audiences and targeting. But now it's just a matter of really loading up the system with data. But this has become more difficult, especially with the recent changes due to the data privacy concerns. And so conversion API, that's something you mentioned. I want to touch on that. It feels like this is something that everyone's talking about, but very few agencies and marketers are actually implementing because it is a highly technical process. Can you break that down to us at a common sense level? And also, are there any tools that can help simplify it so that you don't have to go set up a Google Cloud or an AWS infrastructure to try to manage all of this yourself?
Yeah. So whenever the networks release something new, they release it through an API, which is allowing two machines or pieces of software to talk to each other. Now, a lot of us are based on WordPress or Shopify or some kind of CRM. It could be an Infusionsoft or whatnot. And we're counting on that system to automatically pass back conversion data, such as how many units did someone buy, what was the price, what are aspects of what they have, which then will show up inside your e-com and Google Analytics or whatnot. And most of that data has been passed through the pixel, meaning it's coming through the website or it's coming through the app. But because of this is going to be semi-technical, but because of privacy sandbox with Google that owns Chrome, and because of what Apple is saying with iOS 14, where they're saying, hey, this app, Facebook, would like to have all this data on you. Do you want to allow them to track? And that's it's called the prompt. You either allow them or don't allow. 90% of people say, 90% of people are saying no. No, I'm not going to give you my data.
Is it really that high? Because I hear different numbers. Is that the metric that you're seeing out there?
The Facebook one is 90 to 95%.
Wow. That's crazy.
And it's going to roll out over the next few months. So depending on when you're listening to this podcast or watching this video, it may be for Snapchat, it's probably going to be in the 70% range because people will trust Snapchat more than Facebook. So the percent that people will opt in is based on, do they trust what Facebook's going to do? That's why you don't see the prompt with Google, because Google's like, you know what? I don't need all this other data. The user is inputting it to me already. They're already searching. They're already giving it to me. Anyway, a lot of this data is not going to be available to us because users like, nope, I'm using my iPhone and I'm going to use it the way I want. Or on a website when they're using Chrome. Actually, the Chrome one is going to hurt people way more than the Facebook thing.
Really? Okay.
Well, think about this. What percent of your advertising, of your sales come through remarketing or come through a cookie that is dropped by a third party? A first party cookie is your own website's cookie necessary for navigation, for login, for that particular session, and all the different variables stored, the session variables. But the web runs on JavaScript, and cookies that you have with all the different plugins that you run, if those are rendered obsolete, third-party ad networks are going to be rendered obsolete. Retargeting networks are going to be rendered obsolete. That's why all those guys are selling. Then what are you going to do to get your data? Well, it's not going to come through the browser through third-party cookies, because that will for sure die in the next year. Oh no, it can't be like what? No, it will die. Then what's going to happen? Well, one, conveniently, what Google has said is, well, everything in Google Analytics and Google Ads and Google Tag Manager and Search Console and whatnot, those are automatically converting to first-party cookies. How convenient, right? You see why that's so important? Because now they're like, oh, we're killing all the third-party cookies. Everyone else is going to die. Because why would we want
them?
Pixels here? Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, well, conveniently, Google stuff is still going to work just fine. And if you understand first and third-party cookies, all you need to know is what this means for you is if you want to track your website activity and you're using Google Analytics, you need to make sure your tag manager is set up properly. As part of digital plumbing, you need to make sure your conversions are being brought in properly. And if you're using WordPress, there's plugins that will allow you to automatically use the conversion API that comes through Google and Snapchat and Facebook. And you're going to see more and more of these plugins come in. So you don't have to worry about exactly which plugin or to make your own. If you're a big player, and let's say you're spending more than 10 grand a day in advertising, then you could use the APIs directly and pass them back, just like you would with offline conversion.
That's what it seems like a lot of the large agencies are doing.
Yeah, but unless you're a major player, I would wait for all these other plugins to happen. The impact that you see with Apple and Google making these changes is really not going to hit until the end of 2020. It's going to be a gradual shift. A lot of people are freaking out now. I've talked to hundreds of people. Nobody's seen significant impact yet. It's still too early. Apple has pushed in the last couple of weeks more people to the prompt. So you're seeing an increased number of people. And that's why you'll see lower conversion rates, lower reported conversions. Your actual conversions may look lower because Facebook, for example, moved to a 7-day window instead of a 28-day window. But that's not impacting your actual conversions. But you may want to bid up. What we've noticed with some advertisers is because they're doing bid strategy to a CPM target or a CPA target or cost per lead target or ROAS target, they've had to adjust. So if they've lost 20%, they've got to adjust their conversion bids up 20%. Otherwise, they end up spiraling down, right? Because they know that they're losing, say, 20% of their conversions. So they're just factoring it up. They didn't actually not get those conversions. They're just not reported conversions, right?
Right. Okay. So it sounds like, there's obviously a lot of technical changes that are happening. What do you recommend someone do if they need to set up the digital plumbing and they don't have the in-house capabilities to do it? What are your recommended resources or guidance for getting someone on the team to help with that?
Yeah, you can look up anything related to me. If you want to do it for free, look up Dennis Yu Digital Plumbing Course, and you'll see exactly how to set up Tag Manager. There are some tricky things with the way that you set that up. And that's just, it doesn't matter what you're selling, whatever products or services you're selling, I believe you're going to run everything through Google Analytics. Even if you're using Shopify, Infusionsoft, HubSpot, MailChimp, whatever, you're still going to run through Google as your main source. Some people don't believe in Google, fine.
Source of truth.
Yeah, then don't use WordPress, then don't use all these other kinds of tools. But we have a whole course on how to set up these different components. We keep it updated because we implement this for hundreds of other companies. And we implement for anyone who wants to get that done, which creates jobs for our certified young adults. So we see this as a great ecosystem. Look, Nicholas, if you want to set up IKEA furniture, you could probably do it and read the directions, and you might screw it up and have to unscrew stuff up and you ever assemble IKEA furniture. It's not hard to do. Same thing for things like digital plumbing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But we believe that it's just so much better because your time's worth more than $10 an hour just to have someone else, like a young adult Filipino, do that.
Do it right.
But the training's there.
Right. Yeah, that's great. We're going to provide some resources, but then, yeah, definitely, there's a lot of different opportunities here. One thing I wanted to touch on is dollar a day. The dollar a day strategy. You're well known for this. For anyone who's not familiar with it, give us a quick overview and then maybe update us, because I know this strategy has been around for a while. It still works. Tell us, why is it still working in 2021?
See, a lot of people got confused with dollar a day because like, wow, this works so well. This is Dennis's special magic secret. We're driving sales like crazy, whether it's e-com services, like it works really, really well. And the reason why is that when you're starting with services that are free, like a Google or Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or whatnot, they make money off of ads. Now, us as advertisers and marketers, we want to be able to reduce risk. The network, a Google or Facebook, they want to be able to increase revenue. So the way we intersect in the middle is we test to find something that's working. So we know just from lots of practice that about 1 in 10 ads are going to work. And a lot of people, they start with Facebook ads or they start with a YouTube ad. They heard from somebody, hey, you can run ads on Shopify. So they jump into Shopify or whatever the network is. And they come back and they say, oh, it didn't work. I tried it and it didn't work. Well, yeah, you have a 1 in 10 chance because your creative sucked, not because Facebook didn't work, right? You go to the gym and you work out and you didn't lose a whole bunch of weight. Well, not because the gym doesn't work, but because you need to put time into it and test it and find the things that are working. So dollar a day, the minimum bit to be able to put content out there, top and mid funnel, to see if you get resonance. And when you get resonance, meaning high engagement rate, good video through plays, like on Facebook, we like to see through plays at between a penny and 5 cents, depending on whether the B2C or B2B, then that lets us put more into it. It gives us an early signal on whether our content is working, or maybe it's a targeting kind of issue. So instead of spending, dropping $1,000 on a particular ad, you spend $1 a day for 7 days. So you spend $7 to figure out, is it even something I want to continue? You don't know whether the conversion rate is good or not. But if you get an early signal on whether people are even resonating with that content, if they're bouncing, if they're not watching the video, or you get negative feedback, or there's low engagement, those are all great ways to be able to tell. And so now you have to spend $5 a day on Snapchat. You have to spend $20 a day minimum budget on TikTok. On Google, you often have to spend $10 or $20 a day. But the idea of $1 a day is, what is the minimum amount I can spend to get some statistically significant data with social data, with videos, instead of creating hundreds of combinations of here's a video, here's a headline, here's a landing page, here's some copy. You could literally, just like with Google, create 100,000 combinations on one ad.
Oh, it's infinite. Yeah.
And so that has worked really well for the last 20 years in search, but it does not work on social. Why? Because the number one bottleneck is the video. If that video content, that testimonial, that interesting tip, that piece of advice, that customer feedback, whatever, that interesting moment, whatever it is, that sale you have, whatever you explain in 15 seconds, if that doesn't work well, no amount of multiplying different combinations of headline, copy, targeting, landing pages, red button, blue button, none, as a native ad versus, one on your website, none of those are going to work. So really, dollar a day is about iterating through lots of combinations of or different forms of content, as opposed to a static piece of content and multiplying by 1,000 different ways of changing that content. So it's about more pieces of content, more shots on goal. And thus this works on every single channel. It works on Google, Facebook, Twitter, anything that's a paid channel, the dollar a day technique works well on.
Yeah, and so on that topic, you mentioned Snapchat a few times. I know you're working with them to produce some training, which is really cool. I think a lot of people sort of group Snapchat and TikTok in the same category, and they probably misunderstand both. Maybe give us a little clarity on how you would use Snapchat versus TikTok and where the opportunity is right now with both.
Yeah, well, a lot of them with Snapchat and TikTok, they view it as kind of the parallel to Instagram, but it's not the same thing. Even though you have stories and you have versions of lenses and video effects that you can run, Snapchat is definitely more about the local business. So when you want to get down to local, where there's entertainment, where there's e-com, where it's what people are doing among their friends, that's slightly different than Instagram, which is skewing older. I want to say the average age on Instagram is something like 36. TikTok is even younger than Snapchat because it's a relatively new channel. Snapchat allows us to target down to the city level. And they also have different local features, which you're going to see being released in the next few days. They have this public figure, which has come through. They have an integration with Shopify, with their stories. And there's a couple other really cool things that are coming through Snapchat on local. I think there's going to be a bigger opportunity on TikTok because their engine is more about virality. And you're going to see integration. This hasn't occurred yet. You're going to see integration of your native TikTok account, or sorry, your where you as a TikToker user and your ad account through the business center, the business manager. Right now they're separate. So you can run ads on TikTok without actually being on TikTok. It's not associated with your organic account. But all of them are eventually going to allow us to boost from that organic account, just like we do on Facebook. Both of them are going to eventually allow API access. They're going to have check-ins. They're going to have offers. Everyone's going to eventually converge on local. And that's why this is something that TikTok and Snapchat both don't like us to say, because we have meetings with them all the time, but I'm going to say it anyway. It'll piss them off. So if any of you guys work at Snapchat or TikTok, I told you, when you create interesting video, here's for all you guys that are into tools, marketers, all these kinds of, look, I'm literally taking tons, this is just today, tons of short videos and 15-second things right here on this iPhone and turning them into ads that we put out there as stories, basically, right?
Repurposing the content.
Right? Yeah, so we're repurposing. There's lots and lots, and they don't look like ads because they're little moments in time that we're snipping out. We're not even doing video editing against these because we're using lenses and filters and other tools that they have. Here's the thing. When you create interesting content, or if you're an agency and you do this for clients, you're creating that interesting content, you're going to push that out to Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and Snapchat and Quora. You're going to push it out to all these other channels, right? And even YouTube, where most people think it is landscape, right? They're supporting 1 minute
vertical
videos, and you're seeing
with shorts.
Yep, all of that. YouTube Shorts is great, and you're going to see ads come in on that. So you heard it here first. 1 minute vertical videos that you chop into 15 seconds and repurpose are what's going to drive social advertising. You can reuse that creative across every one of these channels. There's going to be differences though, because of the ability to target for e-commerce, because of local or things like B2B on LinkedIn.
Nice. Yeah. There's so much we could dig into there. Obviously in the interest of time, I just want to ask you a few more questions on that topic of repurposing content and chopping content up. Something that you're really good at is creating processes, as you mentioned early on in the intro here. So maybe give us some guidance for the folks out there that say, this sounds great. What Dennis is sharing is amazing, but I just don't have the capacity to do it or the people on my team to do it. What roadmap do you recommend someone take if they want to start repurposing content, but they just don't have the team for it?
Yeah. You should look at anyone else who has a repeatable recipe in your particular industry. So if you're a real estate agent, you probably know who Tom Ferry is. There's 400,000 real estate agents that follow him, and look at how his team is repurposing content. He literally is sharing. Full disclosure, we did a webinar together on how we went through each of these masterclasses.
It was excellent. The YouTube video, I'll put a link in the show notes here. I recommend everyone check it out because you went into so much detail on digital plumbing and all the strategies. So definitely for anyone who wants more from Dennis, check out that YouTube video. But yeah, go on.
And there's a lot of people that will sell you a lot of services, a lot of tools, but I would say put all that aside. Put aside the shiny red object, squirrel, and look at someone else in your industry who's done the same thing. So if you're a dentist, you probably know who Dr. Glenn Vo is, a very successful dentist who has 32,000 dentists that follow him. So he's following our process on digital plumbing, on checklists, and how you hire a VA. Because Dr. Vo, a few years ago, was trying to do it all by himself. He's like, I can do this digital marketing thing. I'm not going to hire an agency. I'm not going to hire VAs. And then he quickly realized that he needed VAs. So he hired 3 VAs.
You need the team.
Yeah. And you absolutely so if it's just you and you haven't taken the plunge to hire your own virtual assistant, just start with one. You're going to see this will change your life, because then you can have the VA learn all these things. You can have the VA come in and watch this podcast and have them implement instead of you having to learn everything. So you're not a bottleneck. You work on your business instead of your business. So everything we do is around gathering checklists. And I'd advise you guys to do the same thing. When you see someone else who's done something really well, say, hey, how'd you do that? Can you share the checklist that you're using? So now I think about, this is like playing chess multiple steps ahead. I think more about, how do I acquire the checklist that other people are using so I can put all of them inside my big book of checklists? So I've got 1,100 pages of checklists that I've gathered from all over the place that I love sharing with other people. So I care more about my process of gathering checklists than I care more about the tweaking of how do I do the ads. I care more about being an architect than how do I hammer the nail in, if that makes sense. And I think all of us, when we think of business owners and entrepreneurs, right, think more about your business overall and how do you delegate out those other pieces, unless you just really like hammering the nails in yourself.
Yeah, that's brilliant because I hear this all the time, create checklists, but that's the difference is you're out there searching for checklists that already exist, searching for the standard operating procedures that you could then repurpose instead of having to create everything from scratch. I think that's a brilliant takeaway. There's so much else we can cover. One final thing I wanted to ask you is about, we mentioned in the intro, you want to hire 200 people this year. Tell us what is up with that goal? What are you planning on doing there?
I mean, maybe we'll hire 1,000. But we've hired thousands of people across different agencies. I believe that
that's awesome.
Because of COVID, bringing people remote, workers, especially digital marketers, are finding it difficult to get real training on digital marketing. And thus, we need to provide them an apprenticeship model, which is getting real experience, not just going to school and writing essays and that kind of taking it, but real experience. And the apprenticeship model has always been the path that people are learning. So you'll see if you go to financialfreedommovement.com, there's 40 hours of video that Jake Paul and I have created together on helping young adults become influencers and start their agency. Content we've created together with Vendasta and GoDaddy and Fiverr and Instagram and other kinds of companies on how you actually use their particular tools. Because while there's great tools out there, my favorite tool right now is conversion.ai, right? Or Design R, which is
I love that.
Off of the things that you have. Like that, lots of great tools. But unless you have people who are trained up on how to use those tools can't grow. They can't create an ecosystem. There needs to be a certified partner network. So you can decide, I'm talking to you if you're listening, do you want to be an expert in that tool? Which is great if you do, go through that. There should be a certification. If not, look at someone who's done it like us. We've checklists. Everything we do is always driven by a checklist. Or see if you can hire somebody who's credibly done the same kind of thing for someone who's doing the same thing you're doing in the same niche or a similar niche. That's the way I look at training. And so I think that training and going to school and getting a degree and becoming a pilot or becoming fixing cars or becoming whatever it is the same thing as being an implementer. And I wouldn't want to hire anyone on our team to implement something unless they've also gone through the training. So everything that's a package, which is implementation, is also a course. And everything that's a course is also a package. And that's why we have armies of people, and all they do is assemble checklists based on their actual execution. So we don't have a separate team that works just on training. We require all of our people who are doing things to document how they're doing it so they can bring along and mentor other people that are following that same path. So it's a pay it forward kind of approach.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's all tied together.
Yeah, if we're not training up other people, we're not growing, we're not paying it forward, we're not creating opportunities for other people. So look at your business and see, am I growing? If I am, then I need to hire other people. Or if I'm overloaded myself, that means I'm not delegating. It doesn't mean I need to work harder. It means I'm not delegating it.
That's the secret. Yeah. And tie it all together.
If you're not creating jobs, that means you're not growing.
I think a lot of agency owners aren't looking at it like that. They're just looking at the revenue side and the client side and, where can I get new business? But you're right. There's a flip side to that coin. That's awesome. As we wrap up, are there any exciting updates you want to share with our listeners or any resources you want to point them to? Or if they want to connect with you, where can they do all that?
Look me up. Connect with me on LinkedIn, Twitter, not on Facebook. I'm at the limit there. And if you want to join our program, we have live coaching. It's called Office Hours. You can hit me up. It's $100 a month. And we also give you access to all of our training. And I'd love to see you guys grow. Love to hear your feedback too. And love to see everyone practicing what they're preaching. If you've got a checklist on something that's working really well, I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to see how you've demonstrated that step by step and be able to feature you too. My site is a domain rank 63, which means I can rank on almost any other keyword that I want out there. So I'd love to hear from you guys.
You've been doing this for a long time.
20 plus years.
Incredible. Awesome. Well, we will put all of this in the show notes, the office hour links, all of your social channels. Our listeners can find the show notes at growthmarketingtoolbox.com/243 for episode 243. Dennis, thank you so much. It's been an honor getting you on the show. You just shared some amazing stuff, and hopefully we'll get you back on in the future because at the rate everything's changing, we'll need to revisit a lot of these topics pretty quickly.
Thank you, Nicholas.
Awesome. Take care. Well, that's a wrap for this episode of Growth Marketing Toolbox. You can find the show notes at growthmarketingtoolbox.com/243 for episode 243. While you're at it, I encourage you to check out Growth Marketer Weekly. You could sign up simply by going to growthmarketer.co or hit the link in the show notes. That's my weekly newsletter where you can learn the latest growth marketing news, tools, and insights. And it's already trusted by over 4,000 marketers, entrepreneurs, and consultants. So I encourage you to sign up. It's absolutely free. Just head over to growthmarketer.co. Thanks as always for listening. Until next time, take care.
Growth Marketing Toolbox is presented by Growth Marketer and produced by Earnworthy LLC.